Hello? Rescue hooks to rescue, Mayday! Get ahead, West. Fast, Mayday, what's your location? Get the hell out of here, hurry up! We need radio silence, baby. Water in that 2.5 inch line. 48 inch water in a 2.5 inch line. To the rope, to the rope. 35 in the rear, 35 in the rear.
Welcome to the Emergency Traffic Podcast. Hello there again, and welcome back to the Emergency Traffic Podcast. It is a busy summertime with camping, motorcycling, and instructing. I have been struggling to get episodes out on a regular basis. My apologies. But here we are, episode number 77, where we go to rural Texas in July of 2010, just north of the Gulf Coast, southwest of Houston, to the small communities of Boling and Wharton, Texas, where these small fire departments responded to a significant fire at a very large egg production facility that claimed the life of a captain during the firefight. Please join my co-hosts and I for a discussion about this tragic incident based on the Texas State Fire Marshal's report. This incident is a high-risk, low-frequency incident, but these types of industrial agricultural facilities are very common across North America, and most of us have been to or could be called to a similar incident. Please listen and learn more to protect yourself. Hello there, Doug and Denis. How are you guys doing today? We're back finally. It's tough in the summertime, so busy to get together, and I have such a struggle getting scripts and finding time to write when I'm busy camping and motorcycling and teaching and all other kind of stuff. So we finally got an afternoon to get together. So Denis, what's happening? What's new on the East Coast?
Well, it's good to see it's not just the two grumpy guys in the gallery. It's three.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say the two old grumpy guys, and I said, well, yeah, now the younger grumpy guys here too.
Aha, perfect.
I was trying to be more inclusive, Doug. Thank you very much.
Nice, I love it. This is good. Yeah. Well. Anyway, how's Eastern Canada doing?
Well, it's fine. Summer is here. It's been hot, so hot and dry. I thought today we might get another crossover day. It's getting close. So, yesterday the humidity was almost 90%, and today last time I looked, it was 30. So,
oh wow,
yeah, it's always good to have that nice western dry air blowing in.
Yeah, we're sending it to you. We don't have a lot of. It's quite damp here and cool actually.
That's good, probably for the forest fires.
Yeah, unfortunately not up north. It's warm and dry up north. Yeah. And in Saskatchewan, Manitoba.
Yeah, somebody was telling me there's like a big storm coming through, and like Edmonton's the northern kind of edge of it. It's all central and southern Alberta, and the north's getting nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Not good enough.
I don't know. Yeah.
Cool. And Doug, you're busy raising kids and walking dogs and working and.
Oh yeah, I'm busy as ever. Well, I was tied up so much with another failed playoff run that we got all the way to the end and didn't get a parade out of, which was depressing. So, but I'm kind of over that now, waiting for next year. And said, just busy with work. Well, it's funny. I mean, last year at the beginning of the year, there was a thing on Facebook that said like, "Oh, for the next 8 months, my mood is directly tied to my sports team." It was 100% true with me. If the Oilers are doing well, then probably I'm doing well. And if the Oilers suck, then I'm probably not in a good mood. But yeah, so like you said, busy with whatever. I'm on a little bit of vacation from work, but I got trades instead. But going to see Calgary family and birthday parties here and there, and just busy. But we found time to get here today. I feel like it's been forever since I've been here, so we might get a ratings boost here with me back.
Oh yeah, could be. I'll have to go online or on the list and look when the last time was. I thought it was May or.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
January or something.
I don't know. I want to say the Oilers were in the playoffs, so probably around May sometime.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to do with myself either. My Formula One manager guy just he got fired from the team, from the Red Bull team. So I have trouble sleeping at night over that too.
Yeah, world's fastest parade.
I had to give you something to get going. That's
Never.
good.
They call it racing, but usually racing involves cars that are beside each other trying to pass each other, not just following 10 seconds behind each other.
It's better lately. The last few years, it's gotten better.
Yeah, I have to admit, I don't really watch Formula One or care too much, but
If you want fun racing, you got to go see Superbike racing. That's fun.
Superbike. Oh, yeah. Isle of Man or something. Yeah.
Yep, something like that.
now that
Crazy.
the Oilers is done, I kind of start paying attention to the Blue Jays, and they're doing really good. So that's okay. The one thing out of Toronto that I don't mind, the Blue Jays.
There you go. I like it.
Well, speaking of
So,
Toronto, we had a course here from Brent Brooks, which was really good. Hang out with him and
nice.
get lots of his knowledge about high ice stuff. So
Excellent.
we've got to find a way to get him on here for an episode sometime.
Yes, yes. Well, I'll leave that in your capable hands to work that together. Yeah, for sure.
We've got to find a high rise one to do,
Oh,
or just have
yeah,
a chat,
okay.
something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'd
for
be up
sure.
for it. We'll figure something out.
Okay, that's good. Some current events. 3 sheriffs killed in an explosives accident yesterday or day before down in Los Angeles during training, and they had a unforeseen detonation, and it killed 3 sheriff's deputies in East LA. Tragic incident.
Yeah, it was Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies.
County sheriffs, yeah. And there was
Hadn't
a
heard
fire.
that.
Yeah, a firefighter electrocuted at a call yesterday. I think it was Massachusetts, but it might have been New Hampshire or somewhere on the East Coast. Responding to an MBC car versus pole, getting out of the truck, the power line dropped down and hit the truck, and the firefighter was electrocuted getting out of the truck, didn't know it was on a power line, and when he touched the ground, he was touching the door and he died. Tragic. Just happened like last night.
Yeah. We used to spend so much time talking about where to park at those things.
Yeah, it may be dark. They didn't see the line, didn't know where to park. I'm not sure. Yeah, no details yet. So tragic incident.
Yeah. Surprised actually it doesn't happen more often.
Yeah, I know. Fire chief in Texas, right? That with the floods in Kerr County, the tragic floods there. The one fire chief died out trying to do his job as well.
Yeah, and the other fire chief's in hot water.
Oh, is that right?
Well, the Austin fire chief said no to mutual aid or something, and the union got all mad that they said no and didn't send people, and it was too late or whatever. So they had a vote of non-confidence that was like 93% or something.
Oh, yikes! Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's I hadn't heard that one.
Trouble brewing there.
Mm-hmm. Then, of course, there was the Fall River, Massachusetts, the nursing home fire. 9 dead, 30 some injured. IAFF president got going about because they had low staffing on 3 or 4 of the trucks, and they've now decided they're going to increase their staffing. It's been chronic low staffing for years, and they're going to increase their staffing now after the nursing home fire and 9 people couldn't get rescued.
It's good they did that, but that's probably not fundamentally what the failures were there.
Maybe not. Don't know. Haven't seen a report yet. Don't know.
It's probably hard to argue that an extra guy on every truck would have saved more people. Like, it's hard to say no when you're showing up and throwing ladders. I mean, there's data that says an extra guy is quicker at doing firefighting from 3 to 4.
I wouldn't argue that. I think that's completely accurate. More guys, but having been through the Ontario experience when we had multiple fatality care home fires, and they changed the legislation dramatically in Ontario and required sprinklers. Doesn't matter what the age of the building was, doesn't matter what the size of the building was, it was based on occupancy, required minimum staffing on a patient per whatever basis, and annual inspections by the local fire service as well as the province. And there was a lot more to it than that, and dramatically those types of incidents dropped off. And specifically, you got to look at the picture from front to back. It's the whole thing, right? So they had that serious fire in Quebec, right? And I think, Doug, you'd commented online when we were chatting about it that it was a volunteer service at that time in there. But fundamentally, that's not the basis for the problem. The problem is in that particular one, there was two buildings, and one was sprinklered, one wasn't, and the unsprinkled buildings where the fire was, and that's where the fatalities were. And they didn't have the staffing, and they didn't have enough response to replace the on-site staffing. So, and even simple things like how do you get a patient who's bedridden off the third floor down a set of stairs, and the patient weighs whatever 150, 200 pounds. If and they went into things like, the bed mattresses should have handles on them so you can use them as sleds, for instance, and slide patients out. So one person can get a patient out as opposed to taking two or three and having to put them in a wheelchair and carry them down the stairs. And yeah, you get a couple out, but you're not going to get them all out. So, just the whole thinking has got to be towards how do we get these people out?
There's not many
some of them
people
aren't sensible.
There's not many people on that scene where one person's dragging somebody on a mattress down a hallway when the building's on fire. That's what people don't really understand is it takes a lot of people to get one person that is dead weight, unconscious or whatever out of a building. It's a lot.
Yep. If you don't have systems in place and training in place to do it, it's not going to happen. It's that simple. So you're forced to take shelter in place. And if the building is not robust enough to withstand that, then basically your vulnerable population is going to die in place. So that's
speaking of sheltered in place. I watched the Grenfell Tower thing on Netflix the other day.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like, I mean, being told to shelter in place is what did it in for a lot of those people, right? But that's the way they did it. Nothing went wrong till then. So it was, I mean.
Well, there was several other fires before that where this happened, but they just weren't acted on enough to prevent this one.
Let's go back a ways. 9/11, there were a number of people on upper floors who sheltered in place, and their just few minutes of escape window disappeared on them, for instance. And that's not talked about much, but in fact, that is true. So I think there's a number of fires where that has been an issue. So
yeah, there was a bunch in Britain. There was a Lanakai fire or something it was called, and there was another one before that had the same kind of tactics. I mean, hey, London didn't send ladder trucks to high-rise fires until after Grenfell. And they bought much more ladder trucks. And they bought longer ladder trucks, and they're trying to change their thinking from, how they were doing it. So.
Yeah. But having been an incident commander at multiple story seniors apartments, you got to make the tough decision that, are the people going to be able to evacuate? Are they going to die in the hallways, die in the stairways? Or do you have them shelter in place because you don't have the staff to get them out? They're not getting out on their own. You've got non-ambulatory people or virtually non-ambulatory living on the third, fourth, fifth floor. The only way they get up and down is by an elevator. There's no way they're coming down the stairs on their own. And so you've got to make a decision. Can we control this fire in time? Can we ventilate adequately to protect them if they shelter in their apartments? And you're going to have a better chance of that if they've been trained on what to do when they're sheltering in place, for instance, and so forth. And the building's a tough building. So there's a lot of factors,
if you're telling people to shelter in place, then you have to be aggressive enough and trained enough and equipped enough and enough people there to get your people in between those people and the fire and keep the smoke away from them.
And when the fire's coming up the outside walls and in through the windows, then it's kind of hard to do.
Yep. Yeah. But I was Paul, I've told you this story before. We had a 5-story building built in the 60s, basically pre-code, and they had a fire and a transformer that was located in the basement. And most of the occupants, we ordered to shelter in place. We couldn't get them out. But there was so much smoke from that fire, you could write your name on the hallways on the 5th floor because it infiltrated that far. So, people out in the hallways and stairs would have been expired for sure.
Unless they had smoke hoods like they have in Europe.
But smoke hood's great when you carry it around in your... Yeah, you can't carry it in your pocket. You got to know how to use it. So,
yeah, for sure.
There's so many issues like that. So anyway, we're never going to cover them all today, but
no. Okay. Well, moving on here, I've got one of these FDNY tips that we started doing in January, courtesy of Doug pointing out this tips book from FDNY. So tip number 20 of 2024, it says, this talks about floor collapse, recent floor collapse. So recently a member fell through the floor while operating at a third alarm in a 2-story class 4 private dwelling. Fortunately, the member was not seriously injured. Similar incidents have occurred this year. Consider the following points. According to retired Deputy Chief Vinnie Dunn, in his book, Collapse of Burning Buildings, A Guide to Fireground Safety, floor failure is the leading cause of death by collapse. Since 1959, 24 FDNY firefighters have been killed when wood floors have collapsed. In recent years, FDNY has been arriving at fires that are advanced upon arrival. The modern petroleum-based contents, the solidified gasoline I call it, that we live in, and lithium-ion batteries can produce tremendous amount of heat and fire that will quickly weaken structural members. A slower, more cautious approach must be taken when arriving at advanced fires. The housing stock in New York City, as it is in the rest of the country, most of it anyway, is increasing in collapse potential. The median age of residential buildings in New York City, many big cities, is about 90 years old. According to Chief Dunn, to manage the risk of floor collapse, firefighters should sound the floor while searching with a tool. When directing or advancing a hose line, keep one leg outstretched to feel the floor openings or weakening. To manage the risk of floor beams collapsing, use the reach of your hose stream when encountering a weakened section of floor. To manage the risk on multi-level floor collapse, withdraw firefighters from inside a building and set up defensive streams outside the collapse zone. The most dangerous time for floor collapse is during the end of the fire in the decay stage after it's been extinguished. Do not let your guard down during this phase. Full use of PPE is critical, including a helmet secured with a chin strap. This will increase your chances of surviving a floor collapse. So just an interesting little article here from the tips. I thought that was quite appropriate for us all to remember. There's been quite a few of these floor collapse ones. Our podcast list is full of them. So thoughts on that tip, you guys?
Well, just I want to say we should put the disclaimer that's at the bottom of all those tips that they're by the FDNY, about the FDNY, and follow your own department's guidelines. I don't want to get in trouble from the FDNY, but
there you go. Good disclaimer. I like it. This week's episode, which takes us to Texas, and it's from the Texas State Fire Marshal's office. And this is kind of a complex call, so you're going to have to hold on to your seats to follow us along here because it's a very large structure that we're going to review and discuss and do a firefight in. So hold on to your hats and try to stay with us as we guide you through this incident and maybe some lessons to learn as we, in case we get called to something like this.
Sure. As Paul said, this episode is from the Texas State Fire Marshal's office and NIOSH reports. On July 3rd, 2010, the Wharton Volunteer Fire Department Captain Thomas Araguz III was fatally injured during firefighting operations at an egg production and processing facility. At 9:41 p.m., the Wharton County Sheriff's Office 911 received a report of a fire at the Maxim Egg Farm. Boling Volunteer Fire Department and the Wharton Volunteer Fire Department responded first, arriving approximately 12 minutes after dispatch. Eventually, more than 30 fire departments with 100 apparatus and more than 150 personnel responded. Some fire departments came as far as 60 miles to assist in the fire. This report is to honor Captain Araguz by taking the lessons learned from this tragic incident so that others may not perish. Captain Araguz was 30 years old. He was an 11-year veteran of the Wharton Volunteer Fire Department and became a captain in 2009. So a year or minimum 6 months, maximum 18 months before this happened. The Wharton Volunteer Fire Department statistics, it was established in 1906, provides service to the city of Wharton and responds countywide according to mutual aid agreements and requests. The Wharton Volunteer Fire Department is staffed by 31 volunteers, one full-time paid fire marshal. Including the paid position, there's one chief, two assistant chiefs, 4 captains, and 25 firefighters on the active roster. The apparatus include 3 750-gallon, 1,250-gallon per minute pumpers, which is a pretty standard pumper. Yep. One 3,000-gallon tanker, pretty standard tanker, with a 500 GPM pump, one brush truck, and one rescue truck. And the rescue truck could mean anything. word means nothing in the fire service.
Right. Yeah. It could be an ambulance or it could be a squad or, yeah, who knows? Yeah. I mean, your typical small city, you know, fire service, rural. Yeah. I remember when this fire happened. I remember hearing about it on the news and watching some of the videos and stuff like that.
So we're going to talk now about the building structure and systems, and I think you're going to see as we go along here that this is going to fall into a category that we've talked about quite a bit on this podcast, which is basically a low frequency, high risk type incident. And the risk here is going to become obvious, or should become obvious, when you learn about the description of the property itself and the occupancy. You don't get a lot of fires in these types of properties, and when you do, they are high challenge. And I think when you saw the number of staff and vehicles that were assigned to this, you'll get some appreciation about the fact that it was a challenge. So
Good
building
old, good
structure and
old, good old Gordon Graham, right? Low frequency, high risk. I was showing his video this week. I was teaching an incident command safety officer
right,
this week, and we showed that video.
right. And the solution to successfully navigating these incidents is what, Paul?
Is what, Paul? It is
Pre-planning.
taking time to prevent yourself to evaluate the situation so you
Yeah.
don't kill someone.
Pre-planning, having a good incident command system, and everybody knowing their job, really
Yep.
staffing appropriately. There's all kinds of solutions, but basically it's identifying it beforehand and knowing what you're going to do if it happens. Really, that's fundamentally it. So the fire incident building was located on the property of the Maxim Egg Farm, which was located within an unincorporated area of Wharton County. I guess it would be near Boling, Texas, because it was unincorporated. Wharton County has no adopted fire codes or model construction codes, which means that when these buildings were built, they weren't probably built to standard specification according to code. And there was no designated fire marshal on the staff that conducts fire safety inspections within the jurisdiction. And fire marshal here would mean with the fire department, I guess. Anyway, NFPA Standard 101, which is the Life Safety Code, and the 2009 edition applied for this incident, was adopted by the State Fire Marshal's Office and was the applicable standard for fire and life safety inspections in the absence of any locally adopted fire code within this unincorporated area of the county. Maxim Farm property included 23 chicken coops known as layer barns or laying barns, and they averaged about 300 feet long and were roughly 50 feet wide. So we've all seen them. These sheds are all about that size, and each of them held between 15 and 25,000 chickens apiece. So these layer barns were interconnected to a central processing building, and so there was a series of enclosed conveyor belts that transported over 1 million eggs daily. Busy chickens. The
Wow.
property included integrated feed silos, water tanks, waste management facilities, and there were additional areas on the property that included equipment barns, shipping offices, loading docks, coolers, storage areas, and a business office. So, an overall description of the building. So, the main processing structure. So, the fire didn't happen in the layer barns, it happened elsewhere. The main processing structure was an irregularly shaped mixed construction of metal, concrete block, and wood framing that was on a concrete slab foundation. So, no basement, just a slab. And it was approximately 58,000 square feet in area. There were 3 dry storage rooms that were connected by a wide hallway that was on the east side of the plant. Paul, what side is the east side of the plant? Was that which exposure is
The
that?
east side is the Delta.
That's what I think too.
Yeah. Yeah. The attack from the Alpha, which is the south side.
Okay, so that's on the delta side. This wide hallway that interconnected these dry storage rooms. There was also a concrete block wall that separated the egg processing areas from this hallway and other storage rooms. So this building was put together in sections over the years. It wasn't all built at once, which of course, as we all know, introduces all kinds of issues. We've seen those. Anyway, coolers were located north of the processing rooms, which would have been on the Charlie side, I guess, with the loading docks along the west side of the structure, which would be the Bravo side. The
Yep.
loading docks were accessible from the processing rooms, and there was Cooler 3, Cooler 2, and Cooler 1 were located at the north end of the dry storage areas. A two-story building housing the business offices was attached to the main processing plant on the southwest corner. So that is the Alpha Bravo corner. So just to refresh ourselves on this, there's the Alpha Bravo corner, there's business offices, and then proceeding from the Alpha through to the Charlie side, there was egg processing, and then 3 cooler buildings, one after the other. And on the Delta side was basically where the dry storage was.
And the boiler room was over there too.
Yeah, the boiler room was, where was that, Paul?
It was in the center of the Delta side. We'll put the maps on social media.
Yeah.
So you
This
can
is a
refer to
complicated
them.
building, so the diagrams are going to help you. The building construction was classified as an NFPA 220 Type 2 construction with an occupancy classification by the Life Safety Code as industrial. So not a farm building, because it might be in some jurisdictions a farm building, but portions of this for sure were industrial. So even in other codes, portions of this would be considered industrial. The Life Safety Code imposes no minimum construction requirements for this type of occupancy. That can be problematic. It could be combustible. The predominant use of the building was to process and package fresh eggs from those laying barns. What was it, 1,000,000 some a day? And package those fresh eggs for shipment after arriving by automated conveyor directly from the laying house that was adjacent to the building, to the south. In other words, you would drive by it on your way to the Alpha side of the building where the fire was. Anyway, the general floor plan of the building consisted of a large egg processing room with surrounding areas used for storage of packing materials. So those recycled paper cartons that you put the
egg
eggs in.
Cartons and pallets.
Yeah, probably flammable, I would think.
Oh yeah.
And two large drive-in coolers for holding packaged eggs prior to shipping. I don't know what was operating these coolers, but one can assume they were ammonia-based. Large industrial coolers generally are. So you probably got compressed ammonia in the building too. So building construction consisted of a combination of steel and wood framing with a sheet metal exterior siding and roofing over a low-pitched, I'm going to say this New England-wise, roof on a concrete slab foundation.
It's Texas,
so all
not
steel.
New England.
Sorry? We're
Not
in Texas. I'm
It's
sorry.
Texas, yeah.
Right.
It's still a roof.
So typical corrugated steel exterior, right? Kind of a nightmare for getting through, opening it up and getting into the building, in areas where there aren't any doors. Anyways, structural elements within the interior of the building were exposed, so no, they're not fire protected, and there was unprotected with no fire resistance rating materials applied to these structural components, steel. The load-bearing structural elements consisted of steel beams, so those would be the horizontal things holding up the roof and other things, and steel pipe columns, sometimes called lolly columns, not meaning the cast iron, but steel. Also used as part of the load-bearing elements, and wall framing some of that would have been load-bearing too, possibly the concrete ones, right, the block walls. Perimeter walls of the cooler compartments were constructed of concrete masonry units, CMUs. So that's breeze block, right, block walls. The building was not separated between other areas for use by fire resistance rated assemblies. So in other words, each section of the building just opened through doorways to other sections of the building. So there was no self-closing separations or doors or fire doors or any terminology that you might have for that kind of stuff. None of that existed. So ancillary facilities, which mean associated facilities like the boiler room and so forth, were located within the building and were also used for administration offices and other incidental spaces. And these were constructed of wood framing with gypsum wallboard finishing. And I go on. Detailed construction features. The front of the building facing to the south, the Alpha side, were the main entrance to the processing room, which was the first room you came to, and the business offices, which would have been on the Alpha Bravo corner, I remind you, was located approximately 4 feet above the parking lot level. So that first floor was raised about 4 feet and was accessed by a series of steps. The business office was a 2-story wood frame construction with a vinyl exterior siding and had a metal roof. Additional separated single-story wood frame structures with offices were located to the west of the main business office and were connected by walkways. So the business office just kind of extended out on the Bravo side, stuck out beyond the basic building. Probably been added onto over the years.
So as Chief Alan Bernasini would say, the building was built to burn.
The processing room. The egg processing room was 141 feet long, along the east and west walls and approximately 100 feet long from the north and south walls. The processing room received the eggs transported from the layer barns on the conveyor belt system. The room contained the processing equipment and conveyor systems where eggs were cleaned, graded, packaged, and moved to the large coolers to await shipment. The north wall separated the processing room from cooler 3. Conveyors carried the eggs from the north and south layer barns through openings in the walls of the extension of the processing room. So the dry storage. The plant included 3 dry storage rooms along the eastern side of the building, connected by an east hallway. Dry storage 1 and dry storage 2 were located in the northeast corner of the plant under a common sloping metal roof. The dry storage rooms held pallets of containers, including polystyrene egg crates, foam egg cartons, pulp egg cartons, and cardboard boxes.
As you can imagine, this is a building you don't want to go into in the dark on fire.
Yeah.
No doubt it was well labeled inside, though.
Yeah, no doubt.
Maps everywhere. You are here. You
Yeah,
want to go
yeah.
here? Yeah.
I can see it now.
Color coding on the floors, I'm sure. Yeah.
The boiler room, which was attached to the northeast corner of the east hall, so about middle of the delta side. Electrical service was provided to the facility by the public utility. Point of service for the power supply was on that south side of the building, adjacent to the front entrance. Diesel-powered emergency generator was provided in case primary utility failure, designed to provide full load power to the facility. Water supply was provided from an on-site well pumped to 2 storage tanks. Water was pumped to the layer houses in the main processing plant. Water treated at the boiler room of the main processing plant was used for cleaning and processing eggs. A single 5-inch connection located at the base of the water storage tank was the only connection available for fire department use. Refilling tankers was by gravity feed. There were no hydrants on the property. There were no sprinkler systems in the plant. Wow.
So this place is highly packed with combustibles. It's large. Its access is poor. The construction is somewhat firefighter proof with all the steel siding and steel roofs. You're not going to put an aerial up and squirt water onto a
Won't
open
do
hole
anything.
in the roof. You're going to get
Nope.
it. You're going to get through the roof when the roof is on the ground. That's
Yeah.
when that's going to happen, and even then, it's going to be a trouble.
And we have these facilities all over
Massive,
North America, everywhere. They're out there on the farms.
Yeah.
In Alberta, if it's a farm, there's really no code. You can do anything you want. If it's industrial, the size of this building would require water supply here. But obviously, that wasn't enforced in Texas in 2009.
Yeah.
All I could think of reading this building description was that quote unquote shed fire we went to. That was the big potato barn.
Oh yeah, at 37.
But it came in as a shed on fire, and then you get there and it's this like 200 by 100, if not bigger, potato storage.
With all the equipment stored in the concrete tilt-up building in front of it. Yeah.
Oh, and it's minus 50. Go.
Right. It
Have
was
fun.
37. Yeah. It was cold.
Anyway, we're going to talk about the means of egress from these buildings. So the occupant load of the building at peak production periods was reported to be up to 35 employees. So a lot of automation, obviously. At the time of fire discovery, there were only 18 employees present in the building, and the occupant load of this building required a minimum of 2 exits, 18 people, and they needed to be remotely located from each other. Well, that's an oversimplification, really, because most fire codes would require exits every so many feet, for instance, depending on the occupancy. So in this building, 2 exits, there's no way, for instance, that the travel distances to just 2 exits in this large complex would be adequate. So
yeah, because travel distance is what, 50 feet without sprinklers, 75 with sprinklers? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, that's our code, Paul. I don't know what their code
would
be.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
And I'm not as familiar with 101 as I should be. So anyway, there were 3 designated exit doors providing the arrangements for means of egress from the facility. One was located on the south side of the building and considered the main entrance exit. So that's the alpha side. This is the side that the main driveway came in. This is where your transport trucks came in to deliver and pick up, and everything came in from the alpha side. A second exit door was located on the south side of the building from dry storage 3. So dry storage 3 is that building that extends into the parking lot on the Alpha side also. And there was a third exit door, which was located on the loading dock on the west side of the building. So that's over on the Bravo side. So, and these buildings are 100 feet wide. So 100, 200, almost 300 feet of building with one door. So that's what you had on the Bravo side. Anyway, and where a new loading dock had been constructed near that door. It is reported that this door was not used as a regular point of access for employees, but the door was kept unlocked until approximately 6 p.m., after which it was secured with a keyed padlock until the following morning. Fire protection features, the fire safety features in the building were limited to portable fire extinguishers, although they were not required by code for this occupancy. So,
Glad they had some.
very different, very different legislative environment where this is from what we're familiar with, like massively different. The building was not equipped with a fire alarm system. It was not equipped with any form of fire sprinkler system.
Discovery and report of the fire. 18 employees were working in the egg processing room at the time of the fire's discovery. Most employees were completing egg processing, while others were cleaning equipment and processing room. Cleaning the equipment and processing room. One of the cleaning employees stated that she was in the egg processing room and walked through the double swinging doors of the southeast corner towards the air compressor switch along the west wall in the east hallway to turn off the compressor. As she rounded the corner, entering the east hallway from dry storage 3, so that's the one that's sticking out on the Alpha side from the main building a little bit. It's attached, but it does jut out. Looking towards the north end, she saw thick smoke in the area of boiler number room and the dry storage room 1, which were down on the delta side, about halfway up. The smoke layer was in 3 feet of the floor at the boiler room and thick enough that she could not see to dry storage 2, which is right beside dry storage 1. So that's, in a big building like that, that's a lot of smoke. She returned to the egg processing area, alerted the other employees. An employee at the north side of the processing room looked towards the northeast corner leading to the dry storage area, saw smoke moving into the processing room and the vinyl strip doorway, which is those hanging vinyl strips for forklifts to drive through. The employees moved to the main door at the southwest corner of the processing room to exit. So that'd be the Alpha Bravo corner. Smoke was reportedly accumulating at the doorway before the last employee exited. As they gathered in the parking lot, the call to 911 from a cell phone alerted authorities. Interviews conducted of the employees supported the initial reports of the fire. There was a note
So in other words, Paul Smokehead was everywhere in the building by the time the last employee got out.
Yeah,
Because
if
it
it got to
traveled
there.
from the Delta side all the way to the Alpha Bravo corner. So
Yeah, in an immense building. But of course, we know all the combustibles that were in that dry storage. So once it got going, it's going to rock and roll.
Okay, July 3rd, 2010, at 2141, Wharton County Sheriff's Office 911 received a report of a fire at the Maxim Egg Farm located on County Road 442, south of the city of Boling, Texas. The caller, immediately transferred to the Wharton Police Department dispatch, advised that there was a, quote, big fire, end quote, in the warehouse where the egg cartons were stored. Boling Volunteer Fire Department was dispatched and immediately requested aid from the Wharton Volunteer Fire Department. Wharton VFD became command, as is the usual practice for this county. Wharton Assistant Chief Stewart, who is 1102, must be his radio call sign or car number, something like that, was returning to the station from being out on a response to a vehicle accident, assisting the Boling Volunteer Fire Department when the call came in for the fire. He responded immediately at 2150, reported seeing heavy fire coming from the roof at the northeast corner of the building as he approached the plant from the east on County Road 442. When he arrived, he was eventually directed to the east side of the building, which was the Delta side, to the rear loading dock. Assistant Chief Stewart worked for several minutes with facility employees to gain access to the fire building before being led to the northeast loading dock. An employee directed him narrow road behind the layer barns and between the waste ponds of the loading dock. Wharton Engine 1134 followed 1102 to the east side and backed into the drive leading to the loading dock. Assistant Chief Stewart's immediate actions included assessing the extent of the fire on the interior of the building by looking through the doors at the loading dock to dry storage 1. Unable to see the fire through the smoke at the doors of the loading dock, an attack was eventually accomplished by removing a metal panel from the east exterior wall of dry storage 1 and using an 1 3/4 or 44 mil hose crosslay off the engine. After a few minutes, the deck gun on engine 1134 was utilized, directing water to the roof above the seat of the fire near the south end of dry storage 1. Water supply became an immediate concern, and 1102 made efforts to get resources for resupply. That's kind of weird that when you open your deck gun off tank supply, you run out of water pretty fast.
A couple of minutes.
Yeah, if that. Requests for mutual aid to provide water tankers were made to area communities. During the incident, resupplying tankers included a gravity refill from the on-site water supply storage tanks and from fire hydrants in the city of Boling, 3 miles from the scene, and the city of Wharton, which was 11 miles. The city of Boling water tower was nearly emptied during this incident. The radio recordings indicate that there were difficulties accessing the location of fire as apparatus were led around the complex by multiple employees. Heavy rains during the previous week left many roadways muddy and partially covered with water, which added to problems with apparatus access. In addition, fire crews were not familiar with the layout of the facility, and there were no records of pre-fire plans. Assistant Chief Stewart worked for several minutes with facility employees to gain access to the fire building before being led to the northeast loading dock. Wharton Fire Chief Bobby Barnett, which was 1101, arrived on scene at 2156 and ordered incoming apparatus to stage until he can establish an area of operations at the front, the south side of the plant or the alpha side. Chief Barnett directed engine 1130 to position approximately 50 feet from the front main entrance of the plant. At 2209, Chief Barnett established a command post on the alpha side and became the incident commander. 1101, which was this chief, directed radio communications for the fire ground to be on TAC 2 and called for mutual aid from the Hungerford and El Campo fire departments. Chief Barnett described the conditions on the alpha side as smoky with no fire showing. Light winds were from the east or the delta side, pushing the smoke toward the area of the processing room and the front alpha side of the building. Maxim Egg Farm Manager David Copeland, a former Wharton volunteer fire chief, advised command and the firefighters that the fire was in the area of the boiler room and could be accessed by breaching an exterior wall in the employee break area. Chief Barnett ordered Wharton crews to the breach attempt. Captain Thomas Araguz III, Captain John Cano, and firefighter Paul Maldonado were involved in this operation. The crews working in this area were in full structural PPE, including SCBA.
So some challenges here, eh? So fire department responding, and it's clear that water supply is like uppermost in their minds and is driving some of their tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Like attacking a fire of this size with an 1 3/4 line is probably not appropriate, and I'm not sure exactly why they were deck gunning onto a corrugated metal roof. I don't think the roof was collapsed at that time, although the arrival report from the chief indicated that fire was visible through the roof in that would have been the Charlie Delta corner, roughly back in that area there.
Probably melted through.
Yeah, so there might have been a partial collapse in that area. I don't know for sure. So they're not really discussing that. So, but again, as we commented earlier, there wasn't a series of doors all around this building for the purposes of accessing the building. The building was sheet steel right into the poured concrete of the foundation. So been very difficult to get in. You'd need saws and so forth to cut those walls open to make doors. And where do you make the door, Paul? You're guessing, right?
Exactly, 100% guess.
Yeah. Anyway, at 2010, further with the narrative, at 2210 hours, excuse me. So that's about 20 minutes after arrival. Command ordered engine 1130 and tanker 1160 to set up at the front entrance, that's on the alpha side, using tanker 1160 for portable dump tank operations for water resupply. So they're setting up water supply on the alpha side, and the fire is actually in the Delta Charlie corner, but by now I'm pretty sure that it's progressed quite significantly towards the alpha side. It's got the wind coming in on the Delta side pushing it. So on the Delta side, they were having difficulty accessing the fire from the exterior of the building, and this was reported by Assistant Chief Stewart and the crews. Heavy doors, locked loading dock doors, and steel exterior paneling required the crews to spend extra time doing forcible entry. At 22:17 hours, which is roughly half an hour, more than half an hour, 40 minutes after the call came in, Wharton County Deputy Bill Copeland, who's car 3122, who was once a Wharton volunteer firefighter, notified command that the fire was now through the roof on dry storage 1. So through the roof on the Delta side. And dry storage 1 was that long building that was down at grade level. Chief Barnett noticed smoke conditions were now improving in the main plant doorway, of course, because it was ventilated through the roof and it was now pulling air from the alpha side. And he then ordered crews to advance lines into the processor room, which I remind you is towards the alpha side.
So yeah, Chief right at the alpha door.
Yeah, that's right. So Chief Barnett, the smoke cleared up there, and they thought they'd make a push in from the alpha side, heading towards, presumably, the delta side. Chief Barnett stated that he then assigned Chief Araguza, Captain Cano, and firefighter Maldonado because they were the most experienced and senior crew available. So positive pressure ventilation was put in place at the main entry door where Captain Cano, Captain Araguzo, and firefighter Maldonado entered the structure into the processing room. I'm not sure what they were using for PPV on such a huge building. There was no radio transmissions to verify their exact entry times. So they entered without, there must have been a face-to-face with the chief, I'm guessing. Captain Cano stated that an employee had to assist the fire crews with entry into the main plant through a door by using his keypad access.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so everything's all locked up. How are you going to move around in there?
Well, I can't imagine that was the only locked door.
Right.
Anyway, Captain Cano reported the door to processing was then held open by using a 3-ring binder that he jammed under the door after entry. Cano stated that it was low visibility inside and moderate heat overhead. Captain Cano and Captain Araguz made entry on a right-hand wall, so that would be along the alpha side. They were working their way around numerous obstacles. As we'd already noted earlier, pallets of materials were just dropped. The line was not yet charged.
Conveyor belts.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. The line hadn't been charged, so they entered the building with an uncharged line. And they then returned to the doorway and waited for water after they'd stretched the line. Wharton Engine 130 drivers reported in his interview that he had difficulty establishing a draft from the portable tank, and it was later determined to be a linkage failure on the priming pump. 1160 connected directly to 1130 and drafted from the folding tank. As the crew entered into the structure through the main entry door, several plant employees began entering into the admin offices through the area of the main entry door in order to remove files and records. Clearly, they were pessimistic about the outcome of this fire.
Yeah.
This entry by employees was reported to command at 22:23 hours. So about the same time as they were making entry, the other firefighters. And after several minutes, Chief Burnett ordered the employees to stay out of the building and requested assistance from the sheriff's office in order to maintain scene security. So he didn't want them doing salvage work.
Well, good. Well, yeah, didn't want them getting in danger because he thought it was going to go bad, maybe.
Well, yes, but also, he would have needed staff to go with them for their safety and so forth.
Right,
so
right.
There's a lot of considerations there, right? So
yeah.
Anyway, at 22:31 hours, which would be 50 minutes after the call came in, once the line was charged, the two captains, who we'd also mentioned before, Cano and Aragaz, the two captains continued into the processing building on the right wall, leaving Maldonado at the doorway to feed hose. Captain Cano was the first with the nozzle and described making it 20 feet into the building. Do we know the size of this line they were stretching? Probably another 1 3/4 inches, I'm guessing. It's only two of them on the nozzle. It couldn't have been a bigger line than that.
Yeah,
So I don't remember.
inch and three quarter. It says
Did it
end
say that
line.
earlier? I don't remember.
No, it's
Anyways,
in one of the diagrams.
okay. So small line, big building. Cano states in his interview that he advised command over the radio that there was high heat and low visibility. And this is down on the alpha side, although the transmission is not actually recorded at dispatch. Cano also reported in his interview he could not walk through the area and had to use a modified duck walk. I presume because of the heat and smoke.
Yep.
Cano projected then short streams of water towards the ceiling in a penciling motion and noted no change in the heat or smoke conditions. Not surprising, big building. They advanced until the heat became too great and they then retreated back towards the center of the processing building. Remember, this processing building was what, 130 feet long and 100 feet wide, Paul? Something like that.
Yeah, something like.
I remember correctly.
It was one of the
Yeah.
bigger areas in the whole place.
And full of machinery, right?
Yep.
Anyway, Cano stated that they discussed their next tactics and then decided to try a left-hand advance. In other words, go left into the middle of the building. That's what they decided.
Well, it'd be the
Or to go around the other way, maybe. Eh?
Bravo wall, to go the Bravo
Right, to go
wall.
around the other side of the building. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah. So go back to the door and then try going in the other direction. Presumably they pulled the hose line back with themselves. I don't know that. At 22:33 hours, which we're coming up on close to an hour into the incident, Chief Barnett advised advancing hose streams into main building to try to block it. Presumably trying to block it from progressing further, I guess. Captain Araguz took the nozzle and Captain Cano advanced with him, holding onto Araguz's bunker gear. The crew advanced along the south wall of the processing room, again the alpha side, towards the double doors to dry storage 3, and then lost contact with the hose line. That's not a left hand, so I don't know
No,
how they
I
got
don't think.
back
I don't
there.
think they made it all the way back to the door.
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe after they did their conference, they were trying to come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
The investigators then found a pair of hose couplings lying on the floor between the first and second sections of the hose, and this couplings were lodged against, jammed in other words, a threaded floor anchor, which would have prevented further advancement of the hose. So in other words, after the investigation, they couldn't find the hose because the hose burned up. All that was left was a pair of couplings, a male female coupled together
Yep.
where the hose used to be, and that was lodged in amongst a bolt on the floor. So how the team lost the hose still remains uncertain. So at some point, I guess the hose got jammed and they either walked away from it or just couldn't get it unjammed. Anyways, Captain Cano stated in his interview that Captain Araguz told him to call a mayday. So they're deep in the building, however many lengths they were in, at least 2 lengths anyways. And then they called a mayday, stating that he was at first confused by the request, the Captain Cano stated. Like Argus says, call a mayday. Well, why do you want me to call a mayday? But after some time, it became apparent that they had lost the hose line. So they'd left the hose line at some point. Captain Cano reported calling mayday on the radio, but never received a reply. Radio transmission inside a metal-clad building.
Yep.
Captain Cano now believes he may have inadvertently switched channels at his previous transmission reporting interior conditions, so he might have been on the wrong channel. Captain Araguza had a radio, but it was too damaged to determine operability. Not sure why it was damaged. There are no recorded transmissions from Captain Araguz. At 22:37 hours, so just about an hour, a couple minutes short, after the fire was reported, Deputy Chief Copland advised command that the fire had breached a brick wall and was entering the main packing plant. So that was the brick wall that was, or block wall. It says brick here, but block wall that was, I presume, is the one that ran from the Alpha to the Charlie side along
the Delta side. Yep.
Yeah. Command responded that there was a hose team inside. So Copeland advised that the fire had breached through the wall, the masonry wall, and command responded back, well, I got a hose team inside. So at 22:42:50, which is a minute after an hour long, after the call, command radio, command to hose team 1 Cano. This is the first of several attempts by command to contact Captain Cano and Captain Araguz. At 22:47 hours, command ordered engine 1130 to sound an evacuation horn. At 22:50 hours, command announced Mayday over the radio, stating unlocated fireman in the building. Captain Cano stated in his interview after the incident that they had made several large circles in an attempt to locate the fire hose. Cano became entangled in wiring, requiring him to doff his SCBA. After redonning his SCBA, Captain Cano noted he had lost his radio but found a flashlight. He remembered that his low air warning was sounding as he and Araguz searched for the hose. Cano stated that they had made it to an exterior wall and decided to attempt to breach the wall. Working in near zero visibility, Captain Cano reported losing contact with Captain Araguz while working on breaching the wall. Shortly after he lost contact with Araguz, Captain Cano ran out of air and removed his mask. Captain Cano continued working to breach the exterior wall until he was exhausted. These are metal walls. At 22:54 hours, crews working on the exterior of the building near the employee break area reported hearing tapping on the wall in the area of the employee break room. Crews mustered tools and began to cut additional holes through the building exterior. After making 2 openings, Captain Cano was located and then removed from the building. Captain Cano reported that Captain Araguz was approximately 15 feet away inside the building and ahead of him. I don't know what that means ahead of him, but that's what he said. Firefighters made entry through the exterior hole but were unsuccessful in locating Captain Araguz. Cano was escorted to the folding water tank and got into the tank in order to cool down. Rapid intervention crews were established using mutual aid members from the Hungerford and El Campo fire departments, who were on scene now, I guess. The first entry made was at the main entry door, that's on the Alpha side, where firefighter Maldonado was located. Remember, he was left behind to jack hose into the other 2 guys. Maldonado was relieved and escorted to the ambulance for rehab. An evacuation horn was sounded, and the first RIC abandoned the interior search and exited the building. A rescue entry by a second RIC team was through the breach wall of dry storage 3. After several minutes inside, the evacuation signal sounded due to the rapidly spreading fire and deteriorating conditions. 2 additional RIC teams entered the structure through the loading dock doors of the dry storage 3, so further and further away from where the missing firefighter was. Chief Barnett states that there was a total of 4 RICs that made entry after the Mayday. At approximately 45 minutes elapsed time, all rescue attempts ceased. As the fire extended south towards dry storage 3, so past the alpha wall of the main buildings, smoke conditions became so debilitating that Chief Barnett ordered all crews staged near the front of the building on the alpha side to move back south, I guess, and apparatus to relocate. Command assigned, well, the fire was out flanking them on the right-hand side. Command assigned Chief Haffer of the Richmond Fire Department to the Alpha Side operations, and defensive operations were established. Captain Cano and firefighter Maldonado were transported to Gulf Coast Medical Center and treated for smoke inhalation. Fireground operations continued throughout the night. Captain Araguz was recovered at approximately 07:40 hours a.m., so about 10 hours after the fire started. Command was then transferred to the Richmond Fire Department, where Chief Haffer at approximately 07:56 hours, so again, about the same time. And the Wharton units escorted Captain Araguz from the scene. All Wharton units cleared the scene at 08 hours.
Yeah, tragic. So fire got away on him. Didn't know where he was. Couldn't get at him. No radios. No way to get out. Captain Araguz was
high risk. Two guys on a small line, all alone in a big building.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
hopeless case for sure.
Wow.
Captain Araguz was transported to the Travis County Medical Examiner's Office for autopsy. Post-mortem, died from thermal injuries and smoke inhalation. I can't wonder if maybe like some mini monitors through doorways or something like that might have been a way to attack it if you're going to attack it. That was the big question. They
Well, the
obviously,
decision made to enter this building, and but I'm not sure what prompted that decision. I mean, they had a large building with very high loads of combustibles, and they sent two guys with an instance recorder into the building. I'm not sure. They said that they were going to try and cut the fire off, but my goodness, I've fought fires in big buildings, and I'm telling you, it takes a lot of water and from multiple points to be able to cut them off. I mean,
yeah,
if you're successful at all.
they maybe had no idea of the fire loads inside, thinking eggs and conveyors, not all the
No pre-plan.
packaging, and yeah, no pre-plan.
No, they'd never been there before. They didn't know their way around.
I just had the thought too that this is like the picture perfect definition building of when, if you're going in to use a search rope, tie it off outside, bring it in with you, and then you can find your way out, and or they can find you by following the rope.
Better than not having it for sure.
The problem is somehow or other they got away from the line, the hose line. So they might have gotten away from a rope. You got a building area that's full of equipment, processing equipment, and you've got a heavy fire load at the ceiling level. And some areas of this building had suspended ceiling. I don't know if this room did. If that's the case, you've got that grid and the wiring and all the electrical above it's all starting to fall and land on you. And even knowing where you were, you might not have been able to get out because of conditions, right? And so there's like, and where's the discussion of a thermal imaging camera to have this discussion? 2010,
Yeah.
They certainly existed. We had them. We had many of them. So
I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure if you scroll down on your page there, it's
Yeah.
here somewhere.
I
They should
didn't
have
see
one.
much about that. Maybe can't remember.
so many questions, eh, Doug?
So here's and this is of course
That's
and
why we're
it's
here.
different than a NIOSH report. This is the Texas report, which is kind of nice to mix it up once in a while on the podcast with different reports. Recommendations based on nationally recognized consensus standards and safety practices for the fire service. All fire department personnel should know and understand these consensus standards and create and maintain SOGs and SOPs. So we're talking NFPA and stuff like that. There were several factors that, when combined, may have contributed to the death of Captain Aragouz. It is important that we honor him by learning from this incident. Water supply, as Denise said before, became an immediate concern. Although there are two large water storage tanks on the facility with almost 44,000 gallons of water, refilling to tankers were slow, accomplished by gravity fill through a 5-inch connection. The fire department connection attached to the plant's main water supply pump, and plant personnel familiar with the system could have sped up the refilling process at the plant. Most tankers were sent to hydrants in the city of Boling, 3 miles away, which in turn depleted the city's water supply. Other tanker refilling was in the accomplished by the hydrants of the city of Wharton water system, 15 miles away.
That statement about gravity filling the tankers really puzzles me. Why didn't you just put a hard suction hose and a pumper on that nozzle? And it's better than drafting out of a pond because you do have some head. So I'm not sure why they felt locked into gravity. Was it because it was a Storrs connection, maybe that fit a hose? And
pre-planning, right?
Why would you even consider gravity feeding from that? I don't get it.
Versus just drafting on it.
Well, I'm wondering if it was like a tank that was up in the sky and you drove under it and it just fed the top of your truck.
They said they had a 5-inch connection designed for a fire department. So don't know.
I'm looking at the pictures to see if it shows the tanks anywhere. I don't see the tanks.
It's not on the site plan.
It doesn't. No. It says that there was a 5-inch connection. It doesn't say it was a fire department connection. It says a fire department connection that was attached to the water supply and plant personnel familiar could have sped up the refueling process. But like the thing I'm thinking reading this is like I know, Paul, you harp on pre-plans all the time, and even if you're not going to go do an inspection of this building and walk through the building, if this is a big ass production facility in your jurisdiction, as a chief or whoever, fire marshal is paid to be there, you should be like, okay, if this place is on fire, we have water supply issues. The next closest hydrant's 3 miles. After that's 15 miles. It should be like on paper in dispatch's office. If there's a fire here, we need 20 tankers. We need whatever, right? You know there's a problem. Prefix that problem by saying, okay, there's a water supply issue. We need lots of help. Get the help coming.
Sure.
Right off the bat.
I don't disagree at all. I mean, that's automatic aid, really. Based on the call type. I think of Lacombe County here. We have these massive, massive greenhouses. There's multiple. There's some that are like acres and acres and acres in size, and I doubt there's a pre-plan on any of them. I know in my time in Lacombe, beyond driving around it, that was as close as I got to a pre-plan.
But that distance, you're talking 15 to 20 minutes per tanker. Say you want to run a deck gun at 1,000 gallons a minute, which is not much. What's the size of your regular tanker? Maybe usually single axle, 1,500 gallon, maybe 2,000. So you're talking about a tanker every couple of minutes. So you're talking 15 tankers in your relay as a minimum. That's a massive commitment. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's Texas.
That's right.
Everything's bigger.
In Clearwater, my target
including
was
the fire.
I was happy in Clearwater if I could flow 500 gallons a minute sustained. That was my target amount, 2,000 liters a minute. I didn't expect to flow any more than that. There's no way we could do it.
And I mean, you have to make the tactical decision where you're saying, if I need 15 tankers to flow this deck gun, well, then I guess I'm not flowing the deck gun because I don't have the water supply for it.
In this situation, you got to decide which part of this complex you're going to save or is savable, right?
Yeah.
And if I were to look at this, I would see there's two things that are savable. One is dry storage 3 that sticks out the south, and the other one is the office building. Yeah. You might have been able to cut those off and save both of those, but not the rest of it. You might have decided that would be your priority. And if I was to make the choice, I would save the office building because that's where all your accounts payable is. So all the people that owe you money, that's where the records are. That's the part you want to save. And the rest of it's insurance.
If I was the farm owner or the business owner or whatever, and the fire chief said to me like, well, we need 15 tankers to fight your fire. Sorry. My response would be like, start making 15 phone calls then. Like, it's not an excuse. If you need them, ask for them.
They had like hundreds of, 60 fire departments responded.
Well, eventually,
we don't know how soon. We don't.
But when you ask for stuff after you're losing, you're never going to start winning.
But in this,
my point is, you got to ask for this.
In this particular fire, if you needed 15 tankers, the only way that was going to happen in a timely manner was automatic aid. It was never going to happen with calling it after you arrived on scene. Okay, we got 6. That's not enough. I need another 6. No, that's not enough. I need another 6. You're lost, man. You're chasing the bull. The bull's gone.
Here's the official findings from the Texas State Fire Marshal. Fire Marshal, finding 1, there were no lives to save in the building. An inadequate water supply, lack of fire protection systems in the structure to assist in controlling the spread of smoke and fire, heavy fire near the windward side, facilitated smoke and fire spread further into the interior and toward alpha side operations, along with the size of the building, the large fuel load, and the time period from fire discovery. Interior firefighters were at increased risk. Fire department's recommendation: fire departments should develop SOGs and conduct training involving risk management and risk benefit analysis during an incident according to incident management principles in NFPA 1500 and 1561. Risk management should be utilized on the basis of the following principles. Activities that present a significant risk to the safety of personnel shall be limited to situations where there's potential to save lives. Activities routinely employed to protect property should be recognized as inherent risks to the safety of personnel. Action should be taken to reduce or avoid these risks. No risks to the safety of personnel should be acceptable when there's no possibility to save lives or property. In situations where the risk to the fire department members is excessive, activities shall be limited to defensive operations. 1500. Anyway, so it's a defensive fire, folks. There's no going in for anything. It's going to go. You might be able to, like you say, save the offices maybe for a while with, limit your water there. But that's really all you could do.
Yep. We don't know
the one thing I'm thinking about, like saying not going in, is this. I haven't looked at the pictures, so I don't know for sure, but this building seems to me like it's a very compartmentalized, like this building attached to this building kind of thing. So you might, to say you're not going in, you might not be going into the part of the building that's on fire, but you might go into the building that's butted up against that part and say we're going to stage here and fight the fire from here and protect
And
this
I think
part.
that's exactly what they did. That's why they went in on the Alpha side into that processing area, because the fire to them was on the Delta side near the boiler room and the dry storage and stuff like that. And so they went in on the Alpha sides into dry storage 3 and the processing area, but they became overwhelmed. Well, they had a small line. Inch and 3/4 line's not going to protect you in there.
The problem was you got the processing building, and behind that you got another building and another building, another building. They're all laying on top of each other, heading towards the Charlie side. But what connects them all down one side is a very large hallway that they also used for combustible storage, and there was nothing protecting the openings, forklift openings, between any of these buildings and this hallway. Plus, you had conveyors passing through the system. So it was all essentially, even though it was multiple buildings, it was for any intents and purposes wide open.
One open area, basically.
Yeah, basically. Remember they said in the beginning that the fire was in the Charlie Delta corner, and they exited the building in the Alpha Bravo corner, and they were being chased by the smoke when the last employee left.
And Doug, you're
that's how
exactly
connected
right.
it was.
You're exactly right, Doug. They didn't know the building. They didn't know what was inside. And so they did exactly what you thought. Let's go in this side here by the front door. We'll make our way where there's no fire to see if we can find the fire. And of course, because the building wasn't compartmentalized, it was all open, then they couldn't advance and they got lost the line, and then they died.
The analogy is like being in a stairwell, going up a flight of stairs, opening the stairwell door and seeing if you can fight the fire in the hallway or an apartment on that hallway. If your thinking is along those lines, that's not at all what this structure was like. There was no secure place to fight the fire from. The only secure place to fight the fire in this case was exterior to the building.
Good point, though.
Yeah, it is. But again, know your buildings, right?
If you have A, B, C, D, E, F, and the fire's in B, you can go to C or D and have your line there and say, we're going to fight it from here, and if we start losing, we're going to back out.
I think if
they didn't have a backup line. They were just like, here, you three guys go. Here, take this one line, see where you can get to right away. A backup line.
It's a massive building with no ladder truck there, and not enough water for deck guns. So it's hard to say we're going to do a defensive fire because you don't have equipment to do it with.
Right.
No. All you could do was protect the buildings that were partially separated from the main building. Like the office that was just connected by a corridor. You could have cut the corridor and put all your efforts there to keep the fire away. That's about all you could have done.
Yeah. Finding number 2 is initial crews failed to perform a 360 of the building and did not secure the utilities before operations began. The recommendation is that fire departments should develop an SOG that require crews to perform a complete scene size up before beginning operations. A thorough size up will provide a good base for deciding tactics and operations. It provides IC and on-scene personnel with a general understanding of fire conditions, building construction, and other special considerations such as weather, utilities, exposures. Without a complete and accurate scene size up, departments will have difficulty coordinating firefighting efforts.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. You mentioned that potato barn, potato shop, mechanical shop, everything fire. And actually, command sent me to do the 360 about an hour into the fire. And it took me half an hour to do the 360. It was so big, and it had 3 feet of snow on the backside. So I was trudging through snow, checking doors and stuff like that. And these guys, again, they may not have known how big this place was and how interconnected it was.
I have difficulty understanding how they didn't appreciate that, because the fire chief that arrived first arrived on the Alpha side and then was directed to
To
where the
the
fire was,
Delta.
which was on the Charlie Delta corner. So he actually left, went down the road and went up this Kalash road. And Kalash just means a sled, like a,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like a sled pulled by horses. So
like a
a
trail.
trail, in other words. Went up this trail up the Delta side of the building and then back over towards where the fire was. So he at least should have had a pretty good idea that this was a big building. And I'm, I don't know, maybe the impression was that it was a big building and that there was lots of room to operate.
Exactly. If it was compartmentalized, you'd say, hey, we can be in this area and we can fight the fire and make a stand, right?
I only have a hang up on when they say the first in crews should be doing a 360. When it's a giant building like this, you're going to get a little bit of size up as you're arriving. And I don't think any fire truck, any engine company is going to not go start doing firefighting so they can all go for a 3-mile walk around the building first.
But the recommendation doesn't say the first in crew, it says crews. So you need to have people on different sides of the building talking to the IC.
I mean, the finding says initial crews failed to perform a
And that
360.
chief guy was there. He got there first in his pickup truck or something.
He did two sides.
The chief, yeah, sure. And he probably, I mean, yeah, he should have done the whole thing because he's not the guy stretching a line. And he's there first. He's nothing to do anyways. But I don't want people to think, oh, I'm on the first in engine. Hang on, time out. I can't fight the fire yet. I have to go do my hike first. I don't think that's, I mean, the officer, the engine should be getting 2, if not 3 sides to any structure on the way in, hopefully. And within a reasonable amount of time needs to either himself see the backside or have somebody else go over the roof and look down, go around, something like that. I just don't want people to think the initial crew there should be sacrificing firefighting time to go walk around a giant building.
It's a judgment call, Doug. I think, though, you do need to have the 360, but it's got to be provided in a fashion that's consistent with doing something else.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that a pre-plan is a pretty good place to start doing your 360.
Yeah. Number 3.
Finding number 3, the incident commander failed to maintain an adequate span of control. So span of control is 5 to 7 people, but under emergency conditions, generally speaking, it's a maximum of 3. So,
check that off your bingo card because that comes up on every single one of these.
Well, like they say, we're not finding new ways to kill firefighters.
Right. So why did we know this was coming? It's obvious, right? The incident commander failed to maintain a good and adequate span of control for the type of the incident. Safety, personnel accountability, staging of resources, and firefighting operations require additional supervision for the scope. So if you had it divided that way, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 on your span of direct reports to the chief. Keep in mind, you're also talking to dispatch, and you're also listening to
the owner
and the owner and everybody else. So your actual official span of control is always exceeded by your real span of control. And then if you add in a whole bunch of crews, it gets, the owner's yelling at you on one side and you're trying to listen to your crews with the other side. Usually the owner wins, unfortunately, because he's louder or something. I don't know. Anyways, radio recordings and interview statements indicated that the IC performed several of these functions, including command, safety, staging, Division A operations, interior operations, and scene security. He was doing these all by himself. And I get it, short staffing, volunteer department arriving, not much staff in the beginning, but you got to start thinking about filling out these spaces as additional resources come. You just got to do it.
Yeah, I teach ICS. First thing we tell them is, come on, get somebody to help you. Assign areas, sector off. It happened in Baltimore when the 3 guys died. It happened in, you name the fire, and it's every time. So
pretty much,
grab some people.
Anyway, the detailed recommendation is that incident commanders should maintain an appropriate span of control. We just talked about that. And they should assign additional personnel to the command structure as needed. Supervisors must be able to adequately supervise and control the subordinates, as well as communicate with and manage all resources under their supervision. In ICS, Incident Command System, the span of control in any individual with incident management supervisory responsibility should range from 3 to 7 subordinates, with 5 being optimal. And the worse the incident gets, the harder it is to talk to even those. The type of incident, the nature of the task, hazards, safety factors, and distances between personnel and resources will all influence span of control considerations. So it's not a one size fits all. Pre-plan.
Something that I noticed reading this, that is kind of a pet peeve I have, that happens more in volunteer fire departments than career. I don't want to shit on them, but it's where it happens. Is you have all these different ranks in your fire department, chiefs and captains and whatever. But then when you get on scene, there's no division of, it's a captain with 2 or 3 firefighters. And it's just like one captain drives the truck because he likes to drive. The other captain is the captain because he's the captain. And then when you get there, there's no like engine one crew. There's like this one hose line had 2 captains on it and a firefighter. That's not how it's supposed to go.
You're wasting that. You're wasting
a captain's job is to be the one captain with people under him. And that's where this ties into, because if you're just groups of random people, then command is in charge of all of you, instead of command being in charge of a captain who's in charge of a crew. And like it, and 99.9% of the little house room and contents fires you go to, it doesn't matter.
So
but when it gets bigger, it starts to matter. And the small ones are your practice runs and your foundation for the big ones.
But the IC said he put this team together of 2 captains and Maldonado, who I don't know if he was an officer or not, because they were the most experienced guys. So that's actually not good thinking, because you definitely want your experienced guys, but not necessarily only your experienced guys on the team.
You want to spread them out.
An experienced captain with some lesser experienced people on that hose line could probably have done as well. Actually, I don't advocate that they did the thing they should have done, but those captains would have been more effective outside telling the incident commander, get out of here.
Yeah, they should have had a backup line right away. I mean, if one guy's going into a building like this, you definitely want another line on there.
Yeah, but again,
if you're running a fire by telling individuals to go do things for you, you're not doing it right. Yep. You're supposed to run a fire by telling companies led by an officer to go do things for you. That's why I bought
SCBA flashes with the engine number on them, because you are in that company and you stay in that company. You work with that company. You live and you die by that company.
But I know there are people in volunteer services, and particularly the smaller services, who will say that our comments are completely unrealistic. And maybe they are in your particular department, but honestly, if our comments are unrealistic for your department, it's not that our comments are unfair. It's that you need to have a hard look at how your department is run, staffed, and trained. You need to think about changing how you do things, because if you can only put together an experienced crew of 2 or 3 people out of all your fire department, and that's who you're going to ride the incident on their backs, you're setting yourself up to fail. If something like this is going to happen for absolutely
someone's going to get killed. Exactly.
Yeah. And
if you're listening to our comments and listening to our show saying what we're saying is unrealistic, then go listen to a whole bunch of episodes and see how much things like this about span of control come up over and over and over, and ask yourself what you're doing in your own fire department to prevent that from happening to you. Because that's the point of the show.
We keep doing the same thing. Exactly. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
Number 4, the interior fire team advanced into the building prior to the establishment of any rapid intervention crew. Fire department should have written procedures, of course, for fire protection for rapid intervention crews to be available outside the IDLH environment. BC has the 10-minute rule, or before you can send a second crew in. The idea is we don't want to stop people from going in to perform a rescue, If there's a rescue needed, by all means, you want to go in there and get it. It's worth it. But if you're not performing a rescue, then you need to have backup crews ready to go rescue you before if something happens.
So back to Brunacini's 3 points, which were now part of NFPA 1500, was risk a lot to save a lot, risk little or nothing to save nothing. Essentially, that's what it is. So in this case, there was no rescue. The life risk in this place was the guys, the firefighters themselves, who put themselves at risk. So they should have risked very, very little, in which case there was very little excuse to not have a RIC team in place already.
Yeah, and they didn't have one.
Yeah, I found it a little hard or weird that like the third or fourth fire department to show up was the first RIC team.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe that you should not go into a fire before the RIC team's there. I think you can go and start, but the RIC team needs to be like a first alarm company. There quickly. And I mean there's this whole talk about 2 in, 2 out in the fire service now, and how maybe it's kind of going away,
enough.
which but
it is there.
The whole concept of it is being proven to not be as effective as we thought it was. But I think it's still, regardless of what OSHA or whoever says, just my simple brain, having a crew there for us is not a bad thing. And it doesn't need to be the first, second, or third crew, but it can't be the 10th or 7th crew. It needs to be part of the initial deployment of crews.
Well, BC's rule is 10 minutes or before you put a second crew in.
Yeah. But without knowing the absolute details of this fire, I'm guessing that one of their priorities was water supply.
Exactly.
And they started thinking almost wholly in that direction. I mean, they did put a crew inside twice, right? But
because they went in on the other side first.
Yeah.
Interior team, finding number 5 was the interior team and incident commander did not verify the correct operation of radio equipment, communications equipment before entering the IDLH atmosphere, and subsequently did not maintain communications between the interior crew and command. Although Chief Barnett said he communicated with Captain Cano, there was no contact ever with Captain Aragoose.
I thought they were supposed to be on TAC 2 or something, weren't they?
Right. Yeah.
They mentioned that.
Was and he talked to the one, but the other one, either radio didn't work or wrong channel or something. Training for members on the operations of communication equipment in zero visibility conditions is very important. These are small departments of 20, 30 people. It's tough. We understand that. We just want to point this out as why some of this stuff is important.
Number 6, finding number 6, the interior operating crew did not practice effective air management techniques for the size and complexity of the structure. Interviews indicate that the crew expended breathing air while attempting to breach an exterior wall for approximately 10 minutes, then advanced the hose line into a 15,000 square foot room without monitoring their air supply. During interviews, Captain Cano estimated his consumption limit at 15 to 20 minutes on a 45-minute SCBA. The recommendation is that crews operating in an IDLH atmosphere must monitor their air consumption rates and allot for sufficient evacuation time, which is known as the point of no return. This is the time at which the remaining operation time of the SCBA is equal to the time necessary to return safely to a non-hazardous atmosphere. 3 basic elements to effective air management are: know your point of no return, which is beyond 50% of the air supply of the team member with the lowest gauge reading. Know how much air you have at all times, and make a conscious decision to stay or leave when your air is down to 50%.
So keeping in mind that this report was written in 2010, or maybe 2011, Paul, I don't remember the date on the report.
11,
We were really starting to talk about effective air management around about then, and nowadays I would say that this recommendation is inadequate. You should have had entry control. You should have had each crew knowledgeable and about what their endurance is and their specific air consumption. So here it says that Captain Cano estimated he could get 15 to 20 minutes on a 45-minute SCBA working hard. Nowadays, an estimate is not adequate. You should absolutely know what your air consumption rate is. And when you have you set up crews and so forth, you should have some idea of exactly who are the appropriate people to have on your crew from an air estimate point of view. And you should have somebody who is doing entry control and is recording things like your air capacity going in, keeping track of the time, understanding when it is time to get you out. It shouldn't be up to the crew to be the ones that are knowing when their air is at the point where they got to get out, because you can be busy working and not paying attention to your air. And we all know that time does queer things when you're working hard. It gets longer, it gets shorter. You lose track of time, and so you can get yourself in trouble. And so many times I've been in fires where I waited for the buzzer to go off before I bailed. That's how
Sure.
it worked, right?
Everybody does
And
that. Yeah.
it's not adequate.
That's why NFPA's changed the buzzer from a
Yeah.
quarter to 33 1/3. But this goes
Right.
exactly to Doug's point about the captain. That's what they need. Their job is to manage their crew. Their job is not to fight the fire, is not to spray the nozzle, is not to drag the hose. Their job is to manage that crew. They should have had
Right.
somebody else on the hose line, and then the other
Right.
two guys with a captain to supervise them and make sure they're safe.
Right.
And it's exactly what Doug said, and that's the captain's
Right.
job to
Right.
make sure that doesn't happen.
Agreed.
I don't think there's many firefighters out there, let's be honest, that like while they're fighting the fire or doing search and rescue are like checking their air gauge
We're bad
all
at
the
that.
time.
Yep.
It's
Well, you got the lights now, but still, they're right in your
but
face.
you do
They're
need
right
to
in your
like
face.
you need to keep it in your mind that like I've been in here for a while, and when the guys outside command or his aide or whoever needs to be thinking like they've been in there a while, maybe we should see what's going on. And maybe it's just like a hey fire tech, how's your air, like
Exactly
quick
what
little,
Vinny's talking about.
but
Entry control.
yeah.
And the Brits do that very well, but still they have trouble. They get confused because they pool their resources. They don't keep them in companies, like Doug's saying, and that's
because they have red 7 and
because
red
they're pooling
14
their
and blue
guys. They're not
6
keeping their
and
trucks together.
yeah.
But I mean, a lot of guys are buying packs now with telemetry systems that are broadcasting out to a computer
Yep.
what the air levels are. That is not a replacement for proper air management. Honestly, if you want my opinion, all that is something you can go back to after the fire to see how people use their air. If you want to bet your life on some computer recording your air levels, good luck with that. Because unless somebody's actually paying attention to the computer every minute of the call, says there's nobody paying attention to that. You want somebody with a clipboard and a stopwatch who's timing you, whose only focus is you. That's what you want. You don't want some.
That's just how guys like Paul get an extra $20,000 for every SCBA they sell to the city, because they have the newest gimmick and bell and whistle on it.
Just a minute, Paul. You're getting money for that?
What I was going to say is I can understand though, like we talk about command can't do everything by himself, and you need an aide, and you need a staging guy, and you need a BA control guy. But in these small volunteer departments, the people get used up quick because you need a fire attack crew, and you need a pump operator, and you need a guy to drive the tanker. You need all that stuff also. So I understand why some of that stuff doesn't happen. Sure. But as the scene evolves and you get your 60th fire department on scene helping you, you can establish all these positions and help. And we always say, like, you need help, call for help. Help will come. Guys want to go to fires. Right. The tones go off. They're going to show up.
Come. That's right.
Like,
so finding number 7, Captains Araguz and Cano became separated from their hose line. It is unclear the reason they became separated from the hose line. Interviews with Captain Cano indicate that while he was finding an exterior wall and took actions to alert the exterior by banging and kicking the wall, he lost contact with Captain Araguz. Captain Cano credits his survival to the actions he learned from recent Mayday survival firefighter safety training. So that training is good. Like, you do need to get that training and use it, right? But you can't lose hose line contact. It's your only lifeline. Team integrity.
And one thing I just thought of that we never talked about at all was I don't know if Captain Araguz's pass alarm ever went off from
Never
being
heard.
down,
Yeah.
but Captain Cano could have pushed his own pass
Good
alarm
point.
button, and guys, and it's something we're complacent of on a
Yes.
fire ground, especially the first level of alarm, because everybody standing around
all the
does the
time,
little
yeah.
wiggle and the thing. But like when it goes into second and third stages, and you're going, well, that's not turning off. Within a few minutes, you're going, whoa, whoa, whoa! Like, who's? Is that you? Is that me? Is that you? And all of a sudden, you realize it's not anybody standing here. We got a problem.
Yeah.
So call your mayday. Tapping the wall is a great idea, especially on a metal wall. They're going to hear it on the other side if there's a guy there. But hit your pass alarm and draw attention to
But
yourself.
the wall's 130 feet long, Doug.
That's the problem.
Which
Yeah.
part of the wall?
No, I get that, but I mean, you're at that point, you're on a hope and a prayer that somebody's going to hear this, right?
Unfortunately, when I read this statement that he's not sure how he lost the line and he remembered his training and went and banged on the wall. Honestly, I don't think he really remembered what happened. And this sounds like a little bit of, after action rationalization of what must have happened in his mind. And keep in mind, these two guys, Araguzzo and Cano, were the most experienced guys in the fire department. That's why they were sent inside. But yet, they had this failure. So overall, that indicates that there were a lot of issues.
Yeah, I think we've
maybe staying with the hose and following the hose back. Maybe that wasn't part of their training. Maybe they just didn't know that. It's possible.
Yeah, they got disoriented somehow.
If you're listening to this, you should certainly know how to do that. And if you don't, you might want to get on that.
Okay.
If you're listening and you're a firefighter. I keep forgetting we have people listen that aren't firefighters.
No, we beat this one up to death. It's just something to be aware of. The reason I picked this one is there's similar type facilities all over North America or wherever you listen from, and they can be quite hazardous because they're so large, they're so complex, and the life safety risk isn't. I mean, we had the dog food place here in Lacombe County that burned up that fortunately no one went into it, right? But it was a similar kind of a complex structure in the country. We have, like I say, we have greenhouses, we have food processing, we have small manufacturing plants. Or we went to that metal manufacturing plant one time years ago that fortunately the chief was smart enough not to send us in. So.
But as a fire department and as a manager of a fire department, as a fire chief, as an officer of a fire department, as a volunteer or a career firefighter in a fire department, whatever you are, you need to be looking at these occupancies, these buildings, these businesses in your district and go, wow, I hope we don't have a fire there. Yeah. That's not enough. You need to go beyond that and recognize that. Yep. This when you go to this fire, this will be your once in a lifetime fire at that. And let's hope it's not because your lifetime is cut short. It's because these fires are not frequent, but they're highly dangerous. And when they look at the number of firefighter deaths based on every 100,000 of these types of fires, more firefighters proportionally die in these kind of fires than they do in house fires. That's a fact. There's a lot more house fires. And the reason they die in these fires is because it's unusual. And you tend to use house fire tactics, inch and three-quarter line, two-man crew. You don't have your IC all set up. There's just so many issues that you're just not going to get away with in this type of a building, this type of fire. You're just not getting away with it. So you got to pre-plan it, man. And you got to know when to say, this is too big for us. We can't do it until we got, like Doug says, the 60th fire company is there. Now we're tackling it because now we got what we need. You just got to man up and do it. But you got to know.
It doesn't have to be a complex pre-plan. Even what I used to do, once a quarter, one practice night, I would say all crews were dividing into the 4 or 6 crews or whatever, and you're all going to visit a facility in our area. And all you're going to do is, I called it training by osmosis. all I want you to do is just go walk through it. That's all you got to do. Is some manufacturer company rep is going to go with you. You're going to bring some donuts, and you're going to walk through the facility so you get a layout in your mind. And if everybody does it, and I'd switch every quarter, it would be different facilities, and everybody would get to go to see a place. And that's all you need, because at least your spiny senses will be up when you walk into this egg processing facility and you go, wow, this thing is huge.
Yeah. I think that's a start, Paul, but I disagree that it's enough. It absolutely is not
It's
enough.
a start. If you can't do anything else.
After you've done that, you got to sit down and make a resource list. If I have a fire here, and we're not talking about an overheated motor or a ballast in a light fixture that's smoking. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a real live fire that's going to challenge you. What do you need? If it's 45 tankers and they're going to fill here, they're not all filling at the same place. You got to have to fill top or 4 or 5 tankers at any one location. You need multiple locations. You got to know where they are. You need to know all of that stuff and lay it all out. Because when you get there at 3 o'clock in the morning and you want to know what you need to fight this fire successfully, you want to be able to flip out the page and say, order this, order that, order that. Better if it was on automatic aid.
But it's not realistic.
And a lot of that mindset, Denny, is like chief thinking. That's what the chiefs need to be doing, or the officer level maybe. But what I was going to say more on like a firefighter level is your pre-plan, and I'm using air quotes, doesn't need to be an official department pre-plan. It can be driving down the road going, hey, what would I do if that building was on fire? And it can be, hey, I'm here for a medical call or an alarms ringing call. You're just got invited in. Just go. Go look through it. Go walk. Where's the standpipe? Where do tankers fill up? All that. How do tankers fill up? All that kind of stuff. So that when you're there at 10 o'clock at night, it's not your first time. Your brain goes, oh yeah, these tanker filling things suck. We got to go back to town. Maybe I should get a few more. Maybe I should suggest to the chief who didn't come with us to the alarms call that we need more.
I'm a huge advocate of that. I think that absolutely is necessary. But when you're doing your walkthrough and you find out there's an iron bar with padlocks across the exit door, it's great that you know about that. Make a note of it. Make sure everybody knows about it.
Sure, yeah.
All right, well, we beat this one.
Especially in today's day and age, it's not hard to send a department on a small 30-person department, especially. Send a group text or a whatever. Hey guys, you're just at Joe Schmo's Auto Body and the back door's padlocked shut.
And you can do like Paul says, hide donuts around the place to encourage guys to go look.
Well, but then you'll have too many cops there.
Okay, I think we beat this one up to death. I'm going to have to try to shorten it a bit, maybe.
I know which part too.
Yeah, but thanks everybody. Thanks you guys for joining. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Emergency Traffic Podcast. You can follow us on the various podcasting apps such as Spotify, Apple, and we're now on YouTube, and it's easy to comment on YouTube apparently. So, of course, our social media, Facebook and Twitter. Like Sergeant Phil Esterhouse used to say on Hill Street Blues, let's be safe out there.
Take care, everybody.
Stay low and go. Happy to be back finally.